Hi everyone, welcome back to Kembara Zoo. So last time we fixed most of our staff issues, we checked on our animals, everything is looking really good right now, our money's doing good. So for this episode, I think we're gonna just focus on getting a new build down. And for this build, I really feel like it's time we get a restaurant down, so I want to do sort of an Asian-inspired restaurant with a habitat sort of in the middle, maybe for the Komodo Dragons. I'm not sure yet because I have to check their space requirements. I'm thinking we should maybe do the restaurant habitat over here by the sort of empty space we have here. And if we check here, you can see we have no alerts of our animals or staff or anything like that. So with that being said, I think we're just gonna start on the build here. So for the first speed build here, I'm mostly just setting up a layout with adjusting the pathing and terrain, stuff like that. And initially I thought it would be a good idea to just remove all of the terrain under the build, just because I didn't want it to get in my way when building. But that really just turned out to backfire and cause unnecessary problems, as you'll see later, because I realized I actually do need the terrain for the habitat that's gonna be in the middle so that we can add water in there as well. But yeah, while we have this build in the background, I just really wanted to take a second to welcome all of the new people that have subscribed to my channel this past week. It really means a lot to me to see that you guys actually enjoy my content and want to stick around for future videos. Having reached over 200 subs in just a couple of months with this channel truly just gives me so much motivation to keep making content and just connecting with all of you. So yeah, I just really want you guys to know how much I appreciate all of you for watching and leaving comments and just participating in the community. The Discord server is also starting to become more active, so if you haven't joined yet, you'll find a link in the description below. But back to the build here, because this is kind of where you can see I finally realized that I do need the terrain here, so I'm just trying to get it back to the perfect level for the habitat without having it cause trouble with the pathing. So then when we finally get the terrain to work properly, I start making the outline for the habitat, but then check the size of it and realized it was way too small for the Komodo Dragons. So I then had to go back in to expand the area and make everything bigger. I think it ends up looking a lot better with this bigger build later on. So for the rest of the build, I basically just keep trying to make a decent starting point for the terrain and habitat. And of course, this whole layout will end up changing quite a bit once we start making the actual building and restaurant later on. But for now, we at least have an outline to make things a bit easier with knowing where we're gonna have the different stuff. So I'm just placing down some temporary glass barriers now that we're of course gonna change out with null barriers later on, because as you may have noticed, I'm just not too big a fan of all the maintenance that comes with the regular barriers. And as you can see, I'm also placing down the restaurant now. And so we're also adding a small water area in the habitat here, and I wasn't sure how big I could make it without compromising too much of the traversable area on land. So that's initially what we're gonna figure out now after we finish up here. Okay, so right now the inside area here is 824 square meters for the land area, and I don't think the Komodo Dragons has any requirements for water area, but I would like to maybe make the water here a little bit bigger either way, so we're just gonna check the Zoopedia here and figure out if we have enough space or not. We should probably do 2 adults, and then let's just slot in a few kids as well. How many offspring do these guys get each time? 2 to 6, so we're probably not gonna get 6, but we should. Yeah, looking at this now, I think we should just be safe and not expand the water area here. So this is what we're going with right now. But yeah, I just wanted to check that first. So hopefully you kind of get the idea of what I'm doing here. Because now I want to get started on the restaurant area that's going to be around here. But I wanted to maybe use some pieces from the Oceania pack, but we haven't researched that yet. So I think we're going to have to get our mechanic to research that. Okay, so that's just gonna be going in the background. I'll have to leave the game playing for a bit. We gotta watch this. We're having babies. Oh my gosh, let's see. Come on, mama, you can do it. I find it really weird if she's actually giving birth in the water. Oh yeah, I think she's going up to give birth. Oh, there's so much grass here. I hope we don't miss it. Oh, there's one. Oh, it's big. The babies are so much bigger than I thought. 2. 3. Yeah, like these guys would fit inside of this one. Hilarious, but oh my gosh, this is amazing. They're so cute. Wow. It's really cool. He's going for a swim. Let's see, the otters here are about to mate. This is adorable. I've never seen this animation. Okay, well, did it work? Yay! She got pregnant! We're having a baby in January. A lot of things going on here. Yeah, so I completely forgot how long it actually takes to research these themes, but at least we've gotten it started now. Our Malayan Tapir is expecting offspring as well. Oh my gosh, we're getting so many babies. But yeah, so we're not gonna get the Oceania theme done for this build, so I think I'm just gonna have to use the other pieces. So with that being said, I'm just gonna continue with this speed build and hopefully get this restaurant up. Oh, well, never mind that. We're having a baby right now, so let's just check that first. I'm sorry if I'm a bit all over the place right now, but we really can't miss these births. Oh, don't step on her. That's rude. Wait, was that a baby? Oh my gosh, just look at this one. It's so cute. So now I'm gonna get to building, alright? So I really try my best to keep a predictable schedule for you guys, but this one is coming out a day late, and that's mainly because this build turned out to be so much bigger than I initially thought. So I spent 8 hours getting this done until late at night on Thursday, so there was just no way for me to get everything done with editing 8 hours of footage down to 30 minutes and uploading yesterday. But now we're finally getting it done, and I have to say I'm actually quite happy with how this turns out in the end. And there is a lot of trial and error here, so I changed my mind with certain things throughout the build, and I'm not exactly sure what architectural style this is, but I think it might lean a bit towards a modern Japanese style build if I'm not completely wrong. But yeah, so now we're working on the restaurant side of the build because it's kind of going to be split into 2 sections. There will be one entrance for any guests to walk inside and look at the animals, and then a closed off section for the restaurant, where people will also be able to watch the animals while they eat. And I just thought it was a nice addition to have that experience while they're sitting down and enjoying their meals. And here is where I started changing my mind about the layout of this building, because instead of having just a bunch of plain walls, I kind of just wanted to have a very open space with a lot of windows all around. So I then started making a template for the windows I wanted to use, and first I started with these thick plank pieces, but then decided they were too big, so I'm just using these wooden posts that matches the walls very well, and then also adding some painted planks to get some color variation and just adding some details that in my head seems a bit Japanese inspired. But yeah, I'm really not too familiar with Japanese architecture, so don't quote me on that. So the wooden posts are really just meant to sort of frame the windows, so I'm just connecting them around the entire window area here. I then make the whole window section into a group, and then when I move it over, I also make sure to duplicate the outside details to the inside as well, just to make sure that we have some decorative elements on both sides. And then you can see I'm just kind of switching out most of the walls with this piece instead, and I think it just helps to break up the patterns that we've had for the other builds, just so that we get some variations and bring some more interest to the overall look of the zoo. And it's also just really nice to get some natural light into the building as well, and I feel like it just elevates the space a bit, so I really like this. And I'm not sure if I'm adding too many window pieces, so kind of just let me know if it's too much, because I'm not sure. But we do of course also add some plain walls as well, so it's not like the entire building is just windows, even though it's kind of looking like that right now. But like I said, we make adjustments and changes as we go along. But then I also felt like we should add a section with some toilets and a few shops, just so that we have a bit more going on for such a large building. And I mainly stick with the same pieces for most of the build, so you'll see I keep using the wooden posts and painted plank pieces a lot throughout the entire process. I just wanted everything to have a coherent theme and keep it a bit minimalistic. So rather than adding a bunch of different elements, I instead want to use the pieces we have selected here to create a clean look that gives the appearance of the building being quite detailed without dragging too much attention to it. I just felt like I really wanted this building to feel like a very calm and and relaxing space. So by keeping the colors and themes consistent, I think that really helps us achieve that type of atmosphere. So we're also working on the entrance to the toilet block here, and initially I thought I would just use the same pieces and that would work fine as the entrance by itself, but I didn't really like how that turned out. I generally find the toilet blocks to look and feel kind of misplaced, so therefore I tend to cover them up with a door instead, so that's what we ultimately end up doing for this one as well. And I just really wish we had an option to get functioning doors in the game, because it just looks very disturbing to have the guests just walk straight through the door instead of opening it like a person, rather than just acting like ghosts that can walk through walls. So once we finish up with that, I wanted to use those same pieces from before as a trim along all the walls and windows in the building, both inside and outside. So now we're just going to duplicate that all throughout the rest of the building and adjusting it to fit in all the corners and just make nice transitions. And since I'm not building entirely on a grid here, I had to spend a lot of extra time making these adjustments, and that's what has really taken up a lot of time for a lot of different things in this build, because I generally feel a lot more comfortable staying on the grid just because it makes things a lot easier, but it can also be quite limiting. And also the original grid here didn't match with the grid of the path either, so therefore I was kind of forced to go off the grid for some parts. And I have been wanting to get more comfortable not to rely too much on the grid, so this was definitely a nice challenge for me to see that I actually managed to make it work either way. I generally haven't had a lot of practice with building large structures, because before I started my YouTube channel I mainly just used a lot of blueprints from the Steam workshop, but now for my channel I really want to stay away from blueprints as much as possible and just see what I can come up with on my own. So this is actually the largest and most complex building I have ever made, I think. Even though to you guys it might just seem like a basic building, of course. But yeah, so I'm just slowly but surely working on getting more confident with building from scratch and try to challenge myself a bit more with each build we're doing for this zoo. Of course, my builds aren't typically made to look super realistic or anything, but I'm still working on learning and educating myself about how real life structures are made, and try to be somewhat aware of what actually makes sense and just pay a bit more attention to realistic details so that we don't have things just floating without any support structures and stuff like that. And it's taking some time to sort of rewire my brain to be aware of that kind of stuff, but at least I'm trying, even though it might take some time before I actually manage to make very realistic buildings. But I'd say we're getting a tiny bit closer each time, and my attention span is also not the best. So if you notice something I've randomly missed or not paid attention to, then absolutely feel free to let me know in the comments and I'll fix it in the next episode. And also, we don't really get the building completely finished today. Like, for the most part we do, but not entirely. So there are still some things I'm aware of that has to be fixed later, but just in general I absolutely love getting feedback and hear all of your opinions. So yeah, just definitely leave a comment if you feel like it. So while we finish up the rest of the adjustments on the first layer here, I'm just gonna give you a break from the voiceover with some music until we get to the next part of the build here. Well, hello, I'm back. I just wanted to explain a bit what's going on here as well, because now that we're done with the first level, I also wanted to add a second layer to the build. So for this, we're again just placing a bunch of windows up here, but these ones are just plain glass, so a bit different from the ones we used previously. And then of course also adding a trim, kind of similar to the rest of the build, but just a more simple version of it up here. And this section is also going to have a different shape than the first layer, just to bring some interest and variation to the building. So what we're doing is essentially shaping it from the entrance and then following the pattern of the habitat inside, so that the restaurant part and the outer section of the first floor won't be connected to this. And for this one, there's also a lot of adjustment work just to get everything to fit properly without the grid, but it turns out pretty good in the end, so I just really had to be patient and take my time with connecting everything properly. And I have to say, I'm actually really happy we added this layer, because as you'll see soon, I think it really helps to sort of frame in the habitat in a really nice way, so it just looks a lot more spacious and put together, as well as also making the restaurant area feel more closed off from the rest of the building, while they're still able to watch the animals from their tables, of course. Because I feel like when you're at a restaurant, you don't really want to be bothered by a lot of people walking around and making noise and stuff like that, so I just feel like it's nice to have them separated like that. And I know this is quite a long speed build, because like I said, it just took so many hours to make, and I've shortened it as much as possible, but it still turned out pretty long. But either way, I think and hope you're starting to get an idea of what's going on here. For the rest of the build, we're mainly going to just do the finishing touches of the second layer, as well as decorating some more on the inside of the building. We're also going to be adding the roof, of course, and for the restaurant area, you'll see later that I end up doing a glass type roof for that section, and I'm not entirely sure if I like how that turned out or not. So once you see how it turns out, I would really love some feedback on whether or not we should keep it like that or just change it into the same pagoda roofs we're doing for the rest of the building. And then to finish up later, we're also going to be decorating the habitat slightly. We don't finish it completely, like purely aesthetically speaking, but it's a start just so that we can actually get the Komodo dragons in once we're done with the speed build. So while we're getting all of this done, I'll leave you with some music until we're finally ready to get our animals. Okay, so we are definitely not done here, but I've been sitting here for 8 hours and it's getting really late. I think we're just gonna get our Komodo dragons in and then finish up the video. So let's check the market here. Yeah, we should have one male and one female. So let's go with this one for female. We can take this one. And one of you guys commented that I should start putting my animals in the quarantine before I add them to my habitats. And I agree. I just haven't had too many experiences with animals getting sick on arrival. So I've just gotten a bit lazy on that part. But we're gonna send them to the quarantine and then I'll show you what we've done here. So here we obviously have the restaurant and I need a name for it, so feel free to drop your suggestions in the comments below, and in the meantime we're just gonna leave that sign blank. Then we have this outdoor seating area as well as the indoor seating. And I just thought it would be cool to have it here because then the people can kind of watch the animals while they eat. And the habitat here is not done either. It's just, like I said, getting really late and I really have to finish up. I'm a bit worried it might be a tiny bit too small. I'm not sure, so we'll have to see when we put Komodo dragons in. So they're done in the quarantine now, so let's just move them and see how this goes. But yeah, so this is kind of where any guests can come in and view the animals, and then the restaurant is there, so I just separated them like that. Here they come, so let's see. Oh, they're so small actually. I mean, I feel like this should be big enough, but I'm not sure. So that was one, and here comes the other one. Nice. Wow, they're really cool. I love these guys. Okay, so let's see if they're happy. Wait, I think it's actually okay. How do they have enough hard shelter though? Because I haven't added any shelter. Is it just because it's an indoor habitat? That's pretty cool actually. But yeah, so we gotta fix the terrain. Okay, it's a tiny bit too small, but that might be because of some of the plants. Definitely because of this area here. Oh, what's going on? Why is it doing that? What in the world? Okay, there we go. Is this better? Are you happier now? Yeah, now it's in the green, so that's good for now. When they have babies, we might have to do some more adjustments. Yeah, so that's basically it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!